What is up, down, and sideways? You find feathered individuals. It is League Unlock. Eric and Mark here for some power rankings, the final power rankings of the spring season, at the very least, in the LCS, as we're heading into playoffs. And we already talked about there weren't any tiebreakers, none of this crazy shenanigans, but we did have plenty of movement in the bottom of the standings. And yes, I know, Golden Guardians, they get the win against CLG, but Mark, they're still number 10. I'd hate to say it, they're still number 10.
They have to be number 10 when you consider the past 2 weeks, especially for CLG and the improvement in play, the improvement in competitiveness. There's no way that you would have CLG at the very bottom of the rankings. As long as a team like Golden Guardians exists and are putting up the performances that they are on the Rift, absolutely. I think it is important to remember, and I don't think anyone's forgotten the budget for this roster and the developmental, focus for these players and organization right now. And yes, progress. Yes, positive steps forward. Very slow and very small, with a couple of big steps backwards as well. Is I think the overall result or grade performance for Golden Guardians this spring split.
And I want to, because Niles has gotten the most flame out of anyone in the entire LCS. I want to give him another chance. One split as kind of a rookie coming from the collegiate scene right into the LCS, not even through academy or anything. You got to give him at least half the split. If it's more of the same and we don't see any improvement or development from him in the first 4 weeks of the summer split, then okay, you can start talking, making changes of some kind. But I want to give him, I hope the Guardians give him and most of this roster another opportunity.
It's not like the LCS or North America as a region has the unbelievable elite talent that we can just completely shove someone like Niles out, or a situation where Niles can't improve and become a better player in this region. We've had guys in the past that, obviously have had much more experience and have been written off and then come back again and still find value in the LCS. This is a journey that Niles will be on, and a journey that the whole Golden Guardians organization is on in general, as far as improving and trying to find their form. I think the good positive note here to try and leave you on, as you talk about, wanting to get another chance with Niles, keep improving heading into this summer split. You look at someone like Soligo. When Soligo first made his appearance in the LCS, it was really bad. Like really, really, like I'm talking about subbing in Fake God to get, because you had to figure out the import situation. You had to take Someday out of the lineup because of how it was going on. That's the type of situation. Soligo has come back, rebounded, reinvented himself with
and
Dignitas.
So did Fake God.
And Fake God as well. So absolutely. This is, let alone in general, the LCS is absolutely not a league that is so head and shoulders above the rest that we will not have improvement in our players. Niles is certainly someone to be patient with the progress.
And even if he does still continue to slump or not perform well in summer, stick him in academy, give him time to growth, see if he can earn back that shot at the LCS. Just don't cut this guy entirely from the league and never see from him again after one split. FlyQuest is a spot ahead of them at number 9, and I wanted to give them credit for getting such a lead against Dignitas, but throwing away that game is just enough in itself to keep you in at 9.
The big thing that we have seen from FlyQuest this spring split, at the very least, is some little glimmers in the distance of that potential that we talked about towards the beginning.
Pretty faint
of the split. But that's the problem. It seems dimmer than it was at the very beginning of the split, the potential for this lineup and what they would be able to accomplish. Patience, again, is going to have to be the thing that you have to repeat to yourself to try and get progress with this group and this organization. And for FlyQuest, again, the assumption was not playoffs or bust right out of the gates for this team or this group. Need to be patient, need to see some growth. But
we should have seen Dreams 2 weeks ago also.
I think that is something to talk about. And then the individual performances for a lot of these players, and especially the veterans on this FlyQuest roster, specifically Licorice on the top side. I think you can ask for an improvement in play from him.
Then you followed up with Immortals and CLG, and all you have to do is look at the difference in how they played against Cloud9, and that's why CLG is a spot ahead of Immortals. And I'll be honest, if the season was 3 more weeks, you might see CLG knocking or getting close to that number 6 spot, or at least be in the conversation of being a playoff team. The just horrible start that they had was too much to overcome. But they've been playing pretty good the last 3 weeks now, basically.
Absolutely. And what you've seen from them is been some veteran polish to this lineup, to the way that they've gone about it. And that's the expectation. That was one of the things that when we looked at this CLG roster lineup, coming through, yes, there were doubts. Yes, not everybody was a big time believer or even a believer enough for playoffs for this team. But a lot of people saw potential. They saw that they should be competitive. They should be able to push organizations and teams, and especially in the LCS, where we had a lot of inexperienced teams going off of trying to build up. It should have been a situation for them to be even stronger. Still feel like you can ask for more from this team.
And for all the people hating on Flaming Finn, saying he shouldn't even have a starting spot, zip it, man. He was clearly their best player this split, so he's more than serviceable as a top laner. He's been one of the middle to upper tier top laners despite CLG's struggles.
Yeah, and I'm especially interested to see the continued development for someone like Finn alongside Broxa now in the jungle with CLG, see how they develop some synergy, some playstyles around one another. And then just in general, what he has brought to the LCS and how he's played, I think that it's been more than fine and absolutely been a strong point for CLG. And look, no one else is playing the Cho'Gath right now. So at the very least, he's bringing that beast to the Rift for the LCS.
Just doing his best Zoom impression in that top lane. Then it's 100 Thieves and it's 6, and I've said it before. I have the least confidence in them of the playoff teams. Yes, there's a gap between the 6 playoff teams and the bottom 4 teams, but even with the squad like EG heading to playoffs, I just feel like the potential and the highs that they have shown are better than 100 Thieves have shown since week 2.
The absolute peak of a squad like EG, you do have to consider even higher than a peak for a team like 100 Thieves. And then when you're talking about the realistic peak, right? The one that you feel like you can get to on most days or should be able to achieve, you're still edging out on EG right now, which is absolutely a change from what we saw at the beginning of the split and how people would have felt about 100 Thieves and what they would be able to accomplish. And sure, part of that has been the meta shift, specifically in that mid lane for what you're looking for or what you're really able to get out of your individual solo lanes. But still, all that considered, the individual performances across all 5 positions for 100 Thieves, regardless of who is in at mid or not, have not been up to the level of play that you need to be. And especially when you're talking about being in this territory of a power ranking, and surprising or not, this territory in the LCS is requiring better performances than we had seen in prior years. And unfortunately, 100 Thieves has not kept up with that.
It's just extra disappointing because they looked so good in lock-in. They looked so good the first 2 weeks of the LCS. And yeah, it's been a clear downward trajectory since then. We go into the top 5, and EG, we just mentioned, they're close with the 100 Thieves. You could compare them. They're in that number 5 spot. Dig is in at number 4. Despite almost going 0-3 this week, we got to keep in mind that 2 of those losses were to Team Liquid and to Cloud9. Teams above them in the standings, teams that I wouldn't be shocked if Dignitas beat them, but you expect them to beat Dig.
If I had any more faith, any more trust in the members of EG, the confidence in them being consistent, then I would be wanting to make the argument for them to be ahead of Dignitas, given the past week, even all things considered for Dignitas. But that's simply not the case right now with what you see from Evil Geniuses. Yes, the positives, the peak, the good things are all fantastic. You're seeing Jizuke play aggressive in lane, pressure the other mid laner, and as well take that to the other lanes around the map, find his way to play. And the best thing as well is the rest of EG has identified to play around that. They're finding ways to support that type of play and identity, which is so important when you have a player like Jizuke, where it is all or nothing. It's that play style or bottom of the barrel, and you don't want that bottom of the barrel other. So you have to help support that play style. That's what they've been doing. They've been finding ways to get that success on the Rift. I'm still not ready to put them ahead of Dignitas. Need that consistency in their individual, minute-to-minute action in games, let alone the actual result of the games for Evil Geniuses. But they certainly are a team that you cannot be sleeping on the level of performance that they can give you at any moment in a match.
And because all these records are, 2-3 games apart at most from all the playoffs teams, which is, by the way, the closest in record we've ever seen for playoffs. But despite that, want to preface that the top three, I think, are clearly a tier above the other three playoff teams, and that's your Cloud9, TSM, Team Liquid. This week, we had the jump. Team Liquid goes ahead of TSM for that number 2 spot, and it's not because TSM was bad this week by any means. They've been pretty consistent the last few weeks, but Team Liquid have now won 7 of their last 8 games, that lone blemish to CLG. They had 3 playoff squads in the final week, and it was a pretty convincing 3-0 fashion that they did it. And what was extra exciting for me, you can meme all you want about Ari as a pick in general, but seeing Jensen play Ari and Vigar, we've been asking him to, get outside of the meta, stop just playing Azir, Orianna, Syndra. So when he's picking things like this, it just opens up so many more avenues for Team Liquid.
It's important to remember that, yes, TSM does have the 2-0 record against Team Liquid throughout the regular season.
Yep.
It's also important to remember how those games played out, and remembering that one of them was, it seemed quite lost for TSM for a while until some ints. I'm going to put it on ints coming away from Tactical specifically, and that's really one thing to talk about. Yeah, unfortunately this year, and if you're looking at a series, that type of performance, but just in the power rankings, right? Just looking at the LCS and what happened this week, the 3-0 for Team Liquid, and you're looking at TSM, and really, unfortunately, if they find a way to deal with the aggression and the playstyle that they had, a Evil Genius throwing against them, where they dropped that match, I think you could be talking about a world where TSM holds on to number 2. But given the way everything's played out this past weekend, the rise that Team Liquid has been on, I think the positives outweigh the negatives severely for Team Liquid right now, and what they're struggling with compared to what is going right for them. I got to agree and have Team Liquid ahead of TSM, despite TSM having the head-to-head record right now.
And again, it's very close. They were close, those matches that they did play. We're looking at best ofs, right? That's how you're comparing a lot of these hypothetical best ofs. It's not going to be hypothetical in the first round of the midseason showdown, as they do match up. But in that, I'm giving a slight edge to Team Liquid despite that 0-2 head-to-head, and that's why we're sliding them up to that number 2 spot. And Cloud9, they're still number 1, but oh man, it is razor thin now. You're talking about them as the number 1 team.
Yeah, and Team Liquid climbing to number 2, you said a big part of it was seeing those new champions, not new champions, but different champions, right? For Jensen coming through in the mid lane, seeing some different looks from them. You're going to have to be bringing different looks if you're talking about a best of series against Cloud9. Overall, if everything was going well for Team Liquid, if we were not talking about Tactical's struggles overall throughout the entirety of this spring split, you could be having a world where Team Liquid is in that top spot, head and shoulders above everybody else.
Imagine Summer Split Tactical on this team right now. Oof.
Yeah, then it's a different world with TL at number 1. But so far, it is Cloud9. And the thing when I think about Cloud9 getting the top spot to close out the spring split, it just means that, you know what? I think everybody else in North America wasn't quite up to the point that we needed them to be at to start out the year. And Cloud9 is only going to get scarier as the year goes by, is how I understand it and what I've seen from them. I think they're going to clean up some play, get some chemistry still needs to be established with the entirety of this roster, how they move around the map and how they want to play. The individual performances from someone like Fudge has been trending upwards, but still needs to get some places as well to even be at a stable place against some of the top laners that we have in the LCS
That's
level.
A mismatch against Alfari, I'll tell you what. And Humi.
Absolutely. Yeah, for that matter, it is still. But you got to be putting some respect on the overall record, the overall performances, everything considered. Cloud9 has got to be your number 1 squad for the spring split in North America.
Either way, the whole playoff race closer, and the bracket is going to be closer than it's been in a few splits. Excited to get there, but that's it today for Power Rankings. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the Flippity Flip.